Hello, everypony. This is my second Clopfic reading. I shall call it a Clopfic reading. I don't know. Anyway, this fanfic is written by TAW. So yeah. So let's begin. It doesn't count. I'm really glad you're here, Flitter, said a relatively unremarkable brown male earth pony. The stallion was one of the members of one of the various sports teams that Ponyville's high school boasted. Given the size of Ponyville's high school, he was probably a member of all of them. Flitter wasn't entirely sure what he did, as she found most of the things he had to say quite boring. She wasn't blind, though, and had noticed that he'd been staring at her for weeks, and he was kinda cute. More importantly, her sister, Cloud Chaser, had noticed that he was staring at her little sister and couldn't help but encourage her. He'd finally gathered the confidence and bravery to ask her out on a date the afternoon before, using a healthy application of salt to aid his cause, and taken her to the cheapest restaurant in town. Well, it was more of a cafe, really, but it was cheap and within his budget. The important thing was that he tried. I really like you. I think you're really pretty, he said, blushing and looking down at his menu. So much for the big, strong jock, Flitter thought to herself. Aw, thank you, she replied. You're cute. She reached across the table to try and ruffle his mane, but instead he took her hoof between his and brought it to his mouth for a kiss. And a gentleman, Flitter said before giggling and smiling. He smiled back. Maybe her date wouldn't be so bad after all. Ugh, I can't believe that bone-headed animal you made me go out with, Cece, Blair snapped, slamming the door behind as she entered their family home. Her sister was always right. Or at least, she said she was always right. When it came to matters of relationships and romance, Flitter had to wonder why she was taking advice from another pony that never so much as held hooves. Even Flitter had held hooves before. Aw, did it not go well? But he seemed so nice in class, Cloud Chaser called down from her room while she came out to see her suffering sister. She trotted through to the front room and sat down on one of the chairs, patting the seat beside her to suggest Flitter join her. Cloud Chaser may not have a great deal of experience, but if somebody was bothering her sister, she wanted to hear about it. The parents were away, as per usual, and Cece, as her sister had so affectionately nicknamed her, found herself taking the job of moral support far more often than most. Flitter sat down and crossed her hooves with a sour mood and a worse face. He's a pig! I'm done with stallions. They're all the same. She pouted and looked towards her sister, who was offering an arm outwards, asking if she wanted a hug. Flitter leant in and rested against her sister's body, and was quickly hugged. She looked up at her sister and saw her wordlessly asking if she wanted to talk about it. These hay fries are lovely, Flitter said with a smile, before taking another fry from the small pot the two were sharing. She was lying, of course. They tasted cheaper than they looked, and they looked like they'd just been mown from one of the fields nearby hours ago. He had decided that they should share a starter and get meals from the Stable Savers range, but it was the thought that counted. The bowl of apple slices and dried oats sitting in front of the Pegasus didn't look appealing in the slightest, but she tried her best not to let that show. He was cute. That didn't mean he had good culinary sense. Flitter, of course, considered herself an expert chef, or told herself that anyway. Her parents weren't in most nights, so it was up to her and her sister to beat each other, and they usually took turns trying their best to make one of the other's favorite dishes. Flitter made a mean salted celery stick. It wasn't a meal their parents would have been happy with, nor was it one she'd eat with anybody else. But Cloud Chaser felt strongly that things you wouldn't do with other people are fine to do with sisters. Better, even. I'm glad you like them. I've seen you around at lunch, and you never seem to buy anything. I, I thought you might like it if I did, he stammered, as embarrassed and awkward as a cold on their first day with a pretty mare. Aw, that's sweet, Flitter replied, smiling wide and trying her best to look cute. She was good at looking cute. Her sister always told her she was jealous of it. Is this your first date? She asked, trying to sound as sweet and affectionate as she could so not to offend. She didn't want to offend him. He was cute. Damn it. Yeah, he blushed, clearly embarrassed. It was surprising. Flitter had always pinned him down as one of those alpha stallion jock types who went out with all the mares they could see and only wanted one thing. Stallions like that were the reason she never usually dated. She wasn't that kind of girl. It was wrong, she thought, for mares her age to be sleeping around like that. All she wanted from a date was somebody to talk to, somebody that might understand her and support her, and maybe one day love her. Maybe then she'd sleep with them, but only once she was sure they were the stallion she wanted to spend her life with. Most of the boys she knew didn't want any of that, though, but maybe this one was different. After they finished the meal, he flagged down a waiter and insisted on paying the entire bill, including tip himself. Flitter protested, but he wouldn't take no for an answer. Flitter thought it was sweet. They left together and noticed how late it was getting, and how far down the sky the sun had reached. It'd be night soon, and she shouldn't be out too late or her sister would worry. Hey, I really enjoyed tonight, Flitter said. You're different to how I expected. Thank you. I'd love to see you again. She smiled and rested one of her hoofs against his coat. Why does it have to end now? He asked, before quickly bending around and pressing his lips against hers. Flitter pulled back, but he used one of his arms to hold her close and stop her from escaping. Oh? Is it clopping time? Her wings shot out, slapping him away as hard as she could and sending her tumbling to the ground with him. Ah, what was that for? No, I'm not that kind of mare. Oh, please, you've been admiring me all night. You know you want it, baby. Oh, God. He replied, reaching out with his hoof to stroke her cheek. Flitter pulled back and scrambled to her hooves, ending up a few feet away at what she hoped was a safe distance. I thought you were cute. I thought you were different, but you're just like all the rest. You just want under my tail, Flitter shouted. She felt her eyes start to tear up and her voice begin to waver, and she knew she should leave before she dared say something she'd regret. I'm like all the rest? It's you mares that are all the same. You want it. You all want it. I know you do. Look, let's just go back to your place and I'll show you what you're missing, huh? You're disgusting. I never want to see you again, Flitter yelled, running back home as far as her hooves could take her. Oh, Flit, that sounds awful, Cloudchaser said, rubbing her sister's neck to try and relieve the stress. You should just ignore jerks like that. Unless you want me to go beat him up for you, because I will. Gee, who do you think you are, Cloudchaser? Rainbow Dash? Flitter sniffed, starting to feel a little bit better. Thanks, sis, she said, resting a little more heavily into her sister's arms. But I just want to forget about him. Jerk. She closed her eyes and tried to pretend the world wasn't there. She felt safe when her big sister was around. She knew that she was safe, no matter what. Cloudchaser had always been there for her. Always. Hey, it's your turn to make dinner, Cloudchaser whispered. But I can do it if you want. Oat smoothies and ice cream sound nice? Flitter nodded, her face cracking into a small smile for the first time since their date had gone so horribly wrong. Flitter had already eaten, but some comfort food sounded nice around about now. While Cloudchaser left to start preparing the meal, Flitter lay down on the full length of the chair and buried her head into the cushion, hoping that she couldn't see the world and might go away. After a few minutes, Cloudchaser returned, carrying a tray of easy junk food on her outstretched wings. She set it down in front of Flitter and sat at the end of the chair once again, on the miserable mare's legs. Flitter grabbed the nearest smoothie and started to absent-mindedly suck it down the straw. It was an awful, unhealthy mix of both Flitter and Cloudchaser loved. I'm meant to be watching my weight, Flitter complained. I'd kill for your body, Cloud Chaser replied. Besides, it doesn't count between sisters, right? Sure, Cece. That's what you'll be saying when I'm all fat and bloated. Pass that ice cream. Cloud Chaser leant over and handed her sister the family-sized tub of double chocolate ice cream that she always kept around for sisterly emergencies, and popped off the lid. I'm actually getting kind of hungry right now. Flitter began to lick it, savoring the taste and starting to feel a little better. I don't know why he thought kissing me would be so great anyway. You're pretty. Stallions like to kiss pretty mares. It's such a shame they can't control themselves, Cloud Chaser replied. Their mother had always taught them that things like kissing and sex were only appropriate in wedlock, and in her absence, Cloud Chaser always tried to uphold her rulings. It was hard when it hurt her little sister, though. I don't know what's so great about it either. I just feel like we're missing out on something, sis. It's wrong, but every pony else is doing it. There must be some reason. Cloud Chaser nodded solemnly. Truth be told, she'd had similar thoughts, though she'd always been too focused on taking care of her sister to go on dates and hold hooves or similar risky activities, but she wasn't sure what to do about it. Her body knew what it wanted to do, but she'd always known that she had to resist the call of her body, because sometimes it wanted to do things that were wrong. Her eyes shot open as an idea shot through her brain. Hey, why don't we find out? But that's wrong, Cece. You know that. You're the only one. You're the only who keeps telling me that. I guess no. You're the only one who keeps telling me that. Yeah, but it doesn't count between sisters, right? Flitter's ears perked up as she processed the sentence. Of course it doesn't count between sisters. That'd be absurd. Nothing bad counts between sisters. You're a genius. What do we do? Cloud Chaser shrugged. I've never done this before. I guess we do what feels nice. She slowly leant over, lying over her sister's body until their noses were almost touching, and she could feel her sister's breath against her face. That felt nice. So she assumed she was doing well. She moved a little closer, and Flitter mirrored her actions as both of their heads tilted and grew tantalizingly close to each other. Are you sure you want to do this? Flitter whispered with half-closed eyes and a heartbeat that made her feel like she'd been sprinting for hours. The tub of ice cream fell out of her hoof and landed on the floor next to her, falling over and rolling away somewhere neither of them were keeping track of. Time seemed to slow to a standstill as she took in all the tiny little details of her big sister she never really paid attention to. The way her coat felt against hers, the way her eyes quivered when she was nervous, or the way her mane fell down from her head when she had it tilted at this angle. Yet, Cloud Chaser's reply was cut off as Flitter heard the first syllable and knew what she was going to say. She quickly moved forward, clearing the tiny gap between their mouths in an instant, and pressed her lips together. After a few moments of holding there, she pulled back, leaving both of them panting for breath. That felt nice, Cloud Chaser said, keeping her head mere centimeters away. Oh, clopping time. Time for my pre-clop pop. This should take a second. That's some good pre-clop pop. Okay, continue. Yeah. What else aren't we allowed to do? What does this button do? Flitter asked. Okay. Anyway, continuing. Yeah, what else aren't we allowed to do? Flitter asked, smiling upwards at her sister. How about this? She moved her head back, pushing her lips together once more. This time, her lips were parted and her tongue snaked out to tease against her partners until they inevitably opened and allowed her inside. Cloud Chaser quietly moaned as her sister began to slowly explore the inside of her mouth, letting her tongue look over every inch of it with as much fascination and interest as she could ever have imagined. It felt great. And she immediately knew exactly why every pony else was doing it. What a shame that they didn't have sisters to share it with safely. Cloud Chaser's body was telling her that her tongue should do the same, and, empowered by the knowledge that the forbidden things could feel so good, she was in no mood to argue. Her tongue slithered out to mirror her sister's intentions and find out what her insides were like. She giggled as she tasted double chocolate ice cream and spent extra special attention on the most delicious areas. Flitter emitted an approving groan and began to squirm under her sister's body, trying to turn over. After a few minutes, of exploration, they parted as one, each sensing that the other was ready to break away in the same moment. They wordlessly lay there, still mere inches from each other, breathing heavily and thinking hard. Hard. If kissing felt that good, then what about all the other things you weren't allowed to do with other ponies? That felt great, Flitter gasped. I can't believe we never tried this before, and I can't believe it's not butter. Wait, that sounded wrong in this context. Yeah, Cloudchaser replied, lost in thought. She had a confession to make. Flit, I've been bad. These last few months, I've kind of been thinking about what this would be like with other ponies. I shouldn't have, I know. It was just so hard to ignore. Flitter finally managed to roll over and onto her back, such that she was completely underneath her sister. She raised her hoof and brushed it along her protector's cheek. Me too, Cece. It felt nice to think about, even if I knew I'd never do it. I even bought some things to try out by myself, but I couldn't. It felt wrong. Bought some things to try by myself. Whatever. Wait, what'd she buy? Oh, wait. Never mind. I like. Why is it I always record these late at night? It's like 4:30 in the morning right now. Oh, almost 4:40 in the morning. Anyway. Cloudchaser sighed in relief. Oh, thanks, Celestia. I thought I was going crazy. I didn't know how any pony could manage not to think about it, but no pony else seemed to be. Flitter giggled. I imagined some pretty naughty things. Me too. Do you? I think so, Cloudchaser replied, knowing what her sister was going to ask before she'd even vocalized it. Their sisterly bond was unbreakable, and about to get even stronger. Harder, better, faster, stronger. All my fantasies were with stallions, though, and, you don't have... Cloudchaser looked around, as if there was any pony to hear, and whispered the last few words, one of those. Flitter grinned. No, but I did buy something like it. It even came with a strap so some pony could wear it. Okay. Serious face. Urgh. I saved up for weeks, but once I finally had it, I couldn't use it. Want to show me how it works? Cloudchaser asked, grinning. She jumped off of the chair and helped Flitter to her hooves, and they both left the room at a slow run, darting through the house until they reached Flitter's bedroom. Okay. It was reasonably small. Flitter preferred the term cozy, and the walls were lined with classic paintings and portraits of ponies neither of them knew. The floor was clean and carpeted, and the desk at the far side had a few small piles of paper containing homework she hadn't yet done. The important bit, however, was a box beneath her bed. It was hidden behind a sea of stuffed toys, relics from her childhood that she didn't want to forget. They were simply pushed aside, however, as she pulled the box out and opened it. Inside was a small treasure trove of naughty goodies for naughty things. Flitter pulled out the item she'd been describing before. To the naked eye, it looked like an unremarkable block of rubber, but Flitter knew better. The lump of material was enchanted, and within a few moments of being touched by some pony who wanted it, it had already begun to take its true form. A large, fairly accurate replica penis. Okay. Serious face. Grrr, grrr. Okay. Cloudchaser blushed as it began to grow, extending to its full length. God damn it. Okay. I've never seen one up close before, she whispered, leaning closer to it and taking a better look. What does it do? Leaning closer and taking a better look. What does it do? The store attendant told me it was as stallion-like as you can buy. It even gets hot and can, make its own fluids. God damn it. Okay, serious face. Grr, yeah! Okay. Let her explain. Let me start over. The store attendant told me it was as stallion-like as you can buy. It even gets hot and can, make its own fluids. Let her explain. Cloudchaser's eyes went wide as she heard the last part, and she started at it even more strongly. You mean it'll... Yeah, that's one of the reasons I bought it. It's authentically flavored, too. God damn it. Okay. Serious face. Grr. Okay. Yes, yeah, that's one of the reasons I bought it. It's authentically flavored too, Flitter replied, grinning as she showed off her unused toy. She grabbed one of the accessories out of the box, a large steady stand that could be affixed to the floor for greater stability. I always wanted to try it, but Clopfic's mind was alive with flashbacks of her fantasies. Most prominently, she saw images of herself and her sister working together on some anonymous stallion, certainly not married to him, and maybe not even knowing his name. The idea excited her, and her face quickly began to flush red. I kind of want to taste it. With you, she said, looking at her sister and watching for any signs of acceptance or discomfort. She wouldn't want her sister to feel put out at all. I want her to put out. Flitter didn't. Instead, she kicked the base plate to the floor and immediately began affixing the faux phallus into it, stepping back after a few seconds to admire her handiwork. The hoof-made horse cock. Okay. I'm so hoof-made horse cock. Okay. Oh god. Okay. The hoof-made horse cock. God damn it. The hoof-made horse cock. The hoof-made horse cock jutted upwards from the ground, almost as if there was a stallion just below the floorboards. It looked so real, and perhaps more importantly, it smelled so real. The air was filled with a faint musk that, though artificial, felt real to the two girls. Cloudchaser stepped towards it and gave the tip a testing lick. The enchanted rubber felt exactly like skin and tasted accordingly. It seemed to throb under her touch and pulse with energy as if it were alive. It's so big, she whispered, looking over at Flitter. Gonna join me? Flitter didn't need any more encouragement, and stepped over to mirror her sister's actions, giving the head a teasing lick while staring into her sister's eyes. It was everything she'd hoped for, but she never imagined she'd be sharing it, or that the idea of sharing it could be so arousing. The burning sensation from her behind was almost overwhelming by this point, and she knew her body was begging her to take care of it. Most days she would have ignored that, but it doesn't count with sisters, right? Right. Cloudchaser kissed the shaft, just below the head, and watched in glee as her sister mirrored that. They slowly began to move up and down, leaving a trail of light sucks and quick kisses, catching a glimpse of each other's determined eyes whenever they could. It felt good. Like their bodies were built for it, and they were finally getting a chance to act out their purpose. But it was missing something. When the two finally reached the bottom, Cloudchaser moved to give her sister a quick kiss before they continued. The jolt of pleasure that ran through both of their bodies from that simple touch told both of them what was missing. Hey, come a bit closer, Cloudchaser whispered. Flitter complied, wriggling over until they were side by side, both still facing the shaft. Again, they began to mirror each other's actions, except this time, their cheeks were pushed together, and every motion one made the other felt. Their tongues occasionally met, and their lips touched. With almost every movement, the burning behind intensified, screaming at them for more. Flitter had the idea first. She extended one of her forelegs and began to brush it along her sister's body, feeling every hair in her coat as she moved down to where she knew the center of her sister's burning would be. She immediately knew it when she'd found it, as her hoof pressed against a hot, wet, sticky area of flesh. And her sister moaned happily. She started to massage around it, taking over, leading both of their attentions to the excited feeling shaft, and guiding them both around it. The instruction book had been right. It did feel realistic. Every moment caused it to throb a little more, and she could tell it was getting closer to the most exciting part of its simulation. Her sister was almost overwhelmed with sensation as Flitter's hoof continued to rub, stroke, and press against her most intimate area. Her slit had only gotten wetter since, though the burning hadn't abated. Master abated. I'm sorry. Anyway, her slit had only gotten wetter since, though the burning hadn't abated. It continued to intensify even more strongly. Every nerve in her body felt like it was screaming, and she loved it. The well-designed dick at the tip of both of their tongues gave one last shudder before its function was triggered, and a thick glob of realistic cum shot out at the end, arcing through the air to splatter against Cloudchaser's head. She didn't at all mind, feeling the hot, wet substance start to drip down her face and loving it. So much so, in fact, that she felt the need to share it and pounced, knocking her sister to the floor. She quickly pressed her lips together, kissing her just as enthusiastically as before, while the simulated semen dripped between their faces and smothered both of their coats. Flitter loved it too. She kissed back, using her tongue to mop up any of the cum that had already found its way into her sister's mouth, tasting it for herself. It was halfway between sweet and bitter, and was thick. It tasted foul, but that only added to the excitement and depravity. "I love you, Cece," Flitter whispered the instant they broke away from each other, leaving a thick trail of gum to bridge their mouths and noses. "Please, can we do this more?" "Yeah," Cloudchaser replied. "What were you saying about a strap?" "Oh, it fits into that strap over there, and then it does some magic mumbo-jumbo to make it feel real to the pony wearing it, too." Cloudchaser grinned. "Put it on. I want to thank you for showing me this properly." Oh, let me guess. Cloudchaser's gonna blow Flitter. I'm right, aren't I? Anyway, Cloudchaser grinned. "Put it on. I want to thank you for showing me this properly." Her mind was once more alive with ideas and possibilities. Visions of former fantasies flashed before her face. But the one she fixated on this time had her kneeling before some stallion with his cock halfway down her throat, as she enthusiastically and determinedly took it into his mouth. She could imagine it now, the way its heat would feel on her face, and the way her nose would get so close to the musk would be overwhelming, and she could lose herself to the action. She wasn't sure how to vocalize it, but she knew she wanted to be taken by somebody and left as a wet, dripping, panting husk. Luckily for her, she didn't need to say it. Her body language told Flitter all she needed to know. Her sister had been staring at the attached phallus since she strapped it on, without a word and without really seeing. She was enraptured by the sight, and Flitter wanted to let her feel like she could do anything she wanted. It didn't count between sisters anyway. I love how they keep having to say, it doesn't count between sisters. Get it? Because the title is It Doesn't Count. Anyway, it's just kind of funny. Flitter walked over, stumbling a little as a new sensation surprised her. The shaft was already hard and firm, and she could sense it was ready again. But she hadn't anticipated how sensitive it would be. As she moved through the air, she could feel it rubbing against her sensitive head, and she couldn't wait to see how it would feel to have her sister's lips clamped around it. As soon as she was standing near enough, she jumped up and stood on one of her old wooden stools. It gave her just enough height for her second head to be level with her sister's first, and the two stared at each other for a few moments. Without warning, Cloudchaser pushed forward and pressed the tip through her lips. Flitter groaned loudly, overwhelmed by the sensation. "Oh, Celestia, it feels so good," she moaned, subconsciously thrusting forward to prompt her partner to take more inside of her. Cloudchaser didn't really need the advice. She was already busy trying to push her head down as far as it would go. Her tongue lapped around the length already inside of her, and her mouth sucked and shifted from side to side to try and give the length as much attention as she could manage. Flitter gritted her teeth and screwed her eyes closed, trying to resist. "Your tongue feels so good," she grunted. "Please, deeper." Cloudchaser, whether listening or not, complied, pulling it further in and feeling the very tip start to tickle the edge of her throat. She gagged, almost choking, and realized she'd found her limit. She took a deep breath, taking in the heady musk of her sister's own arousal, as well as the faked scent. Combined, they were overwhelming, and Cloudchaser soon found it difficult to think about anything but the thick, long cock in her mouth, and the beautiful pony was connected to. She started to pump up and down, running her lips along the well-lubricated length while she licked and sucked as best she could. Flitter groaned and gasped above her, biting her lower lip hard enough to draw blood, which immediately mixed with the cum still splattered all down her face, and trying her best to resist. Her body was a harsh mistress, though. The burning was only getting stronger, and Flitter felt her legs begin to shake. Something came over her. She wasn't sure what, and she quickly moved her forehoofs to grasp Cloudchaser's head, pulling and pushing her to make her go harder and faster than ever before. Yeah, like that. More, she panted, groaning and grunting and thrusting forward to penetrate deeper than ever before. Clouchies are gagged as the shaft went far beyond her comfort zone, but she didn't resist nor complain, and tried her best to continue sucking as deeply as she could. Within moments of this new technique, Flitter exploded. Fluid splashed from her natural slit, dripping down her legs and soaking the stool beneath her. Yet more cum flowed out from her unnatural penis, shooting out down her sister's throat as she eagerly gulped it down and swallowed as much as she could. What she couldn't manage dripped from the corners of her mouth, staining her already cum-soaked coat. Both of them fell to the side, exhausted and breathing deep. Yeah, that felt so good, Flitter absent-mindedly muttered. You feel so good. Clouchies grinned and wiped a few drops off of her lips, before crawling and resting her head against her sister's chest. You're comfy, sis. Tastes nice, too. She gave the tired partner a quick kiss, sharing a little of the load to both of their delight. They lay there for a few minutes, recovering and enjoying each other's company. You ready to go again? Flutter asked. She wasn't sure whether it was her finally realizing how much fun this could be, or something from her accessory. But when she looked down at her sister, she found an overwhelming urge to take her, there and then. Clouchies nodded, smiling up at her. She stood up and walked a little away, before turning around and dropping her forelegs to their knees. Her tail was raised so high it quivered against her neck, and Flitter could see just how wet she was. Flitter quickly made her way over and jumped, easily mounting her desperate partner and resting the tip of her shaft against the eager body. She could tell from Clouchies' body language that she was ready, and ready to do anything to get it. You want this? She whispered. She could barely contain her own desires, but even so, it felt right to make her sister beg. Tell me how much. Flitter, please, I'm burning. I need it. I need you. I've never felt this good before. Please. Beg, Flitter whispered, running one of her foreheads through her sister's hair. After years and years of being the little sister, it was finally her time to be the dominant one. Please, I beg you, please, I'll do anything. I'll make dinner for a month. We can eat ice cream every day. I won't even call you fat, I swear. Flitter was appeased, and without warning thrust inside. She wasn't prepared. She had no idea how powerfully she'd be able to feel every twitch and twinge of her partner's body, or how her heartbeat would send a jolt of pleasuring running through her, or how good it would feel to pin somebody down and make them moan. Clouchies was. Her eyes were closed and her hooves were braced against the floor, and her mouth was open in a deep and primal moan. No matter how good it made Flitter to feel to be on top, Clouchies loved every second of the other side. Flitter began to slowly thrust in and out, letting her sister's own juices lubricate the path. She was tight, of course. She was tight. Of course she was. She was tight. Of course she was. She never had sex before, and she'd still be a virgin afterwards. It didn't count with sisters. And every inch Flitter moved brought new sensations crashing down inside her. As she increased her tempo, finding a rhythm to let her slide in and out over and over quite comfortably. Her partner began to pant and gasp, overwhelmed by the same shots of pleasure. Oh, yes, Sally. Please, Sally. Oh, whatever. Oh, yes, Sally. Please don't ever stop. Clouchies grunted between heavy breaths. Flitter's pumping continued, growing stronger and faster all the time as her body neared the end. The now familiar sensation of an oncoming orgasm began to build up in her body, and mind, and she could feel the body she was inside begin to twitch and clench in much the same way. Cloudchaser was so excited. It was really no surprise she was already so close. Within a minute or two, her quiet pants turned into heavy, full-on groans and screams as the pleasure washed over her mind and her body began to convulse as she tipped over into ecstasy. The knowledge that she'd given somebody such pleasure, combined with the way they were jerking her around and sliding over her, brought Flitter to the edge too, enhancing both of their pleasures with rope after rope of thick, red-hot semen shooting out into her sister's body. It was, of course, completely sterile, but neither of them even cared for that one perfect moment where the world was just them and nothing else. Nothing else mattered. Cloud Chaser collapsed, and Flitter fell on top of her. They both lay there, breathing heavily, until one managed to catch their breath. "That was amazing," Cloud Chaser whispered. "You're amazing. Those stallions don't know what they're missing with you." Flitter blushed and giggled. "And they never will. I'm all yours, sister." Because, of course, with sisters it doesn't count. Well, that was quite an interesting read. I might as well do the rating thing now. Story-wise, it's another typical incest fic, but I don't know. I kind of liked what they did with it. It was interesting. I could say that it's very interesting. The characters, well, it's a Clopfic. I'm about to talk about the characters. The characters were pretty cool. They weren't just there for the sex. They actually did have a pretty good connection, which is pretty cool. They had some good chemistry. Yeah, you can really, there's really a sense of sisterly bonding, obviously, in this Clopfic, and it worked. The sex had a meaning, had a point. I'm probably gonna I'm probably gonna get a lot of hateful comments saying that I support incest. Whatever. Okay, the writing. The writing was pretty good, actually. I quite liked it. There were a few spelling mistakes here and there, but the actual writing itself was very good. This is something that you can clop to. It's not like Friendship is Sexy where it's just badly written. Then again, I guess that was supposed to be funny. But yeah, so I'd say they can clop to this. So good writing. Good characters, and they have good chemistry together. And the sex actually did have a point, even if it was incestual. And yeah. So, oh wait, did I mention the writing? Whatever. I think I did. Anyway, so that was It Doesn't Count. An interesting incest fic between Flitter and Cloud Chaser. What do I give it? I give it 5 clops out of 5. So, yeah, see you later, Everpony.